good evening. I'm from Minnesota, so I'm nearly Canadian. But tonight, I'm going to take you away from Canada to talk about constitution making in East Timor and Afghanistan. As you know, in war-torn countries, constitution making is often a key component of a political transition. And research shows that inclusive politics and civic engagement secures a more durable peace. But what level of inclusion and civic engagement is sufficient, and who gets to decide? During the initial political settlement, the path to peace is narrow. Typically, those left holding the guns and a few other key stakeholders get to be around the table. Constitution making, however, is a unique peace-building opportunity because it can widen the path to peace to the extent that it can embrace the diversity of the nation. It can do this through civic education, public consultations, national dialogue, and consensus building. But in East Timor, my first experience in constitution making, this peace-building opportunity was sadly missed. Although the East Timorese had fought and sacrificed for 2 decades to achieve independence, political party leaders told me voting is sufficient engagement. East Timorese do not want to talk about the Constitution, nor are they able. But in fact, citizens are not required to be experts in constitutional issues like separation of powers. Constitution makers talk to them about what are their needs, their aspirations, their visions for the future. Then it's up to the constitution makers to put this into the framework of a constitution, to balance the opposing views of citizens, and to try to form consensus. Nonetheless, in East Timor, a mere 90-day period was decided to debate, adopt, and draft a constitution. 28 broad-based civil society organizations protested, and the following is their plea, and I want to share their words with you. This constitution has to be a living document, which reflects how the East Timorese as a people see themselves, relate to each other, and finally, after many centuries, govern themselves. To do this, they need information on the choices to be made, what a constitution is, and the options. They will then need to consider these options and debate, record their views, and build consensus and legitimacy. South Africa took years to achieve this. A 3-month process would rob the East Timorese of this right, and it will alienate them from the very document that should voice their aspirations. Sadly, other agendas won out. The process was rushed, and largely, the Constitution was viewed as the product of a single dominant political party, rather than a consensus-based social compact. I was in the country a short time after violence broke out, and many called for reform of the Constitution. I fled to the hills, and I sought security with the nuns. As East Timor was burning, I got a call to go and assess the Afghan constitution-making process. When I arrived in Kabul, East Timor was fresh in my mind, and I met with the Constitutional Committee members. They had locked themselves in a room, and they were writing the Constitution behind closed doors. Civil society didn't know the process was going on, society as a whole didn't know the process was going on, and civil society was up in arms. My colleague and I met with international and national political leaders, and we shared comparative experiences about how they could broaden the process. They shared with us their fears, their risks of opening up the process. But we talked about how this could be managed, and they garnered the courage and the political will to open the process up to Afghan citizens. They asked me if I could support the process through the adoption of the Constitution. Although the security, time, and resources were limited, we established 11 satellite offices so we could have nationwide reach. And we also reached out to diaspora in Iran and Pakistan. Hundreds of Afghans from civil society, community leaders, religious leaders, the media, the arts, schools, volunteered to contribute to this process. Extensive measures were taken to reach out to youth, women, nomads, IDPs, minority groups. The Commission bravely traveled throughout the country, and hundreds of thousands of people were consulted. I was very moved to see women who thwarted fatwas and risked their lives, and people traveling for days to talk to the commissioners. The commissioners told me they were transformed from this experience. They didn't expect the sophisticated views from their brothers and sisters, and also the fact that these people were much more open to religious freedoms than they had ever expected. Their efforts showed Afghans a break with the past, where their voices were suppressed at the point of a gun. And Afghans showed that they had hope for the future. Though the process wasn't perfect, the Taliban remained outside the process. But a broadly inclusive 502-member constitutional Loya Jirga adopted the Constitution. And the process reflected the output, because women and minority groups gained significant rights in the Constitution. After Afghanistan, I founded the constitution-making program at Interpeace so that we could share options for national actors to build peace. 12 years later, it's more widely recognized that the process is as important as the content, but political will is still a problem. We recently launched the Women's Constitutional Voices program because, as we know, women face unique barriers to participation. Although I've personally met with hundreds of women who've played leading roles in coalition building or in constitution-making bodies, the literature is literally devoid of their voices. During my research, I was happy to find a rare video of women reclaiming their place in history. It was from Canada, where women played a significant role in the 1982 Constitution. The video starts out by these women lamenting the fact that they were left entirely out of the history books. To conclude, in addition to committing ourselves to widening the path to peace where possible, we must also recognize and celebrate the full diversity of leadership, or we will have a narrow view of history, and we deprive current and future generations of inspiring role models. Thank you.